The Grand Canyon doesn't forget. It doesn't forgive either. It waits. Not like a predator. Not exactly. Something older than that. Something colder. It watches as people pass, smiling tourists with phones raised, red-faced hikers gasping in heat, children dangling their legs over ancient ledges while parents pretend not to panic. And every once in a while, someone doesn't come back. The locals have a phrase for it. The canyon keeps what it wants. In 2013, it kept someone named Dana Blake. She wasn't famous. There weren't any headlines. No national coverage. No CNN ticker. She didn't vanish in the middle of a family vacation. She wasn't a child. She wasn't fragile. She didn't scream. She simply stopped existing. And for nearly 11 years, the only person who kept her story alive was her younger sister. Then, on May 12, 2024, a backpacker named Eli Romero posted a blurry photo online, and everything changed. But before that, let's go back to the beginning. Her name was Dana Ainsley Blake, 29 years old, wilderness photographer, lived alone in Flagstaff, Arizona, ran a tiny blog where she posted raw, unfiltered shots of desert ruins, dying light on cliff faces, the color clouds before a storm. Her last words to anyone, a short email to her sister Rachel, were simple. Back by Sunday. If you don't hear from me, raise hell. Dana wasn't reckless. That's what people don't understand. She knew what she was doing out there. She logged every hike, carried GPS tags, packed emergency gear. She didn't post selfies. She didn't crave attention. She craved silence. Her journal, recovered years later, had an entry from May 16th, 2013 that read, "The canyon's not a place. It's a wound that never healed. You don't enter it. You descend into it." May 17th, 2013, 6:45 a.m. Tanner Trailhead, East Rim, Grand Canyon. A ranger's trail cam captured the last known image of her. She's alone. A dark green pack slung over one shoulder, camera case hanging at her hip, her face turned slightly toward the lens. Mid-smile, sunlight on her cheek. The time stamp reads 6:45 a.m. Wind speed 9 miles per hour. Temperature 61 degrees Fahrenheit. She's adjusting the straps of her bag. Calm, composed, not a trace of worry. Behind her, a sea of red stone and shadow. Unmoving, watching. That was the last time anyone saw Dana Blake alive. Tanner Trail isn't for amateurs. It's steep, barely shaded. Drops more than 4,000 feet in under 9 miles. Few hikers choose it. Even fewer hike it alone. But Dana had prepared. In her own handwriting, her name appeared in the backcountry logbook. D. Blake, Tanner, 2 nights, lower camp, back Sunday. Everything was neat, just like her. She left behind a permit on her windshield, a marked map, a voicemail for Rachel that just said, "Signal's bad, leaving now. Talk soon." She never made another call. On Sunday night, Rachel waited. By Monday, she was calling rangers. By Tuesday, they found Dana's car, untouched, windows cracked from the heat. Inside, her coat, a faded trail map, a bag of dried apricots, and her favorite cassette tape, Nina Simone. The seatbelt was still buckled. Search teams mobilized. First a ranger team, then helicopters, dogs, volunteers. They found her camp on day 2. Everything was too neat. Tent zipped, boots placed side by side. Journal missing. A pot of quinoa scorched to the bottom, left unattended. And her camera? Gone. Except not really. The camera body was found, face down in the sand. But the SD card had been removed. Not lost. Deliberately removed. No signs of struggle. No blood. No animal prints. No cliff fall. No footprints past her tent. It was as if she walked outside and simply dissolved. People tried to explain it. Heat stroke, wrong turn, mountain lion, voluntary disappearance. But everyone who knew Dana said the same thing. She wouldn't leave without her camera. She wouldn't walk off a cliff. She didn't vanish. But something was off from the beginning. A small map, hand-drawn and pinned inside her tent, had a red line branching from her planned route into an unmarked side canyon. Next to the line, she'd written, "Shortcut? Maybe. Light." It was the only part of her trip not marked on the official plan. That line changed everything, because no one could ever find that canyon. Rangers called off the official search after 10 days. Rachel didn't. She stayed behind, walked alone along the trail, slept in Dana's empty tent, lit a candle each night by the cold fire pit, and whispered, "Where are you?" Over the years, Dana's story faded. It became a footnote. Lost hiker. No remains. Presumed dead. Her sister didn't accept that. She mapped every lead, every rumor, every blurry sighting, every noise in the night someone claimed to hear while camping near Tanner. Every year on May 17th, Rachel hiked the trail again. Every year, she left a note at the trailhead. "D, I'm still looking." She always signed RB. But in 2024, 11 years after Dana vanished, a new name entered the story. Eli Romero, former Army, now a wilderness documentarian with a rising YouTube channel. He didn't know Dana. He'd never heard her name until someone at a campsite near Flagstaff told him, "Ever hear the Ghost of Tanner Trail?" That night, Eli couldn't sleep. He opened his laptop, typed in 3 words, "Dana Blake disappearance," and the canyon opened again. He didn't mean to get involved. Not at first. Eli Romero was just passing through Flagstaff on a solo filming trip, gathering drone shots of wildfire scars and abandoned ranger towers. His YouTube channel, Bone Dust, had grown fast. Not flashy, not clickbait. Just quiet, patient exploration. Places where silence outweighed signal. He wasn't interested in ghost stories until one found him. A retired geology professor named Carla Lane was sitting across the fire that night, red wine in a steel cup, gray braid down her back. "You ever hike Tanner?" she asked. "Not yet." She nodded slowly. A woman vanished there. Years ago. People still see her. Eli half smiled. "You believe that?" Carla didn't blink. "I saw her myself. Last spring. Standing near the edge, green pack, gone when I blinked." Then she added, "The canyon keeps what it wants." He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat under a broken moon and Googled the name. Dana Blake. There wasn't much, just a handful of old blog posts, a few forum threads, a Reddit post marked unsolved with a single comment. "Check Beamer Trail. Look for the spiral." He clicked every link. By dawn, he downloaded her last known route, opened the park's backcountry archives, and filed for a hiking permit, not to chase a ghost, to retrace the steps of someone who never got to finish her trail. May 17th, 2024, 6:47 a.m. Tanner Trailhead, East Rim. The same hour, the same date. 11 years later. Eli stood where Dana had once stood, booted feet on red dust, packed tightened, camera clipped to his chest. He'd printed her last photo from the ranger cam and tucked it in his journal. Mid-smile, mid-step, unaware, he planned to mirror her route exactly. Tanner Trail to Lower Camp. 2 nights. Optional detour toward Beamer and Palisades. He brought everything she had. Even a Nikon of the same model, a notebook for sketches, and a compass that clicked softly when shaken. But he carried one thing she didn't. Curiosity with hindsight. Eli knew what she didn't. that this trail once swallowed someone whole, and he was about to follow her down into its throat. The descent was brutal. By 9:30 a.m., the sun was full on the rock walls. No shade, no breeze, just heat pressing like hands around his ribs. But he moved like a soldier, slow, steady, observant. At mile 3, he passed a switchback where Dana had last been seen by a hiker in 2013. He paused, studied the angle, the wind, the silence. He whispered out loud, "She was here." At mile 5, he noticed the first symbol. It was subtle, easy to miss. 5 stones stacked vertically beside the trail, each slightly smaller than the one beneath, balanced perfectly. A cairn maybe, common in hiking, but something was off. There was no reason to mark this part of the trail. It wasn't a fork. It wasn't dangerous. Still, he logged the coordinates. 50 feet later, another stack, this one in a spiral. Stones curled inward like a slow collapse. He knelt beside it and whispered, "Who built you?" The canyon didn't answer. By late afternoon, he reached lower camp, the place Dana had pitched her 10-11 years earlier. The same bend in the Colorado River, the same grove of cottonwood trees. He set up his shelter in the same position. Door east-facing, notebook placed at the tent's mouth like she had. Everything was eerily still, except something was wrong. The cairns he'd passed, they weren't on any map. He flipped through her archived journal scans again. In one corner, beside a sketch of a side canyon, she had written, "Symbols, not natural. Spiral and stones, not for direction." And beneath it, felt watched. That night, Eli filmed a time-lapse of the stars. He mounted the camera on a tripod near the river, but when he played it back later, a shadow moved across the frame at 3:22 a.m. Not fast, not a glitch, a vertical form, just outside the reach of the firelight. It didn't vanish. It stepped out of frame. Eli rewound the clip a dozen times. At the 3 hours, 22 minutes and 7 seconds mark, you could just barely make out an outline, long arms. No backpack, head tilted, as if listening. And then it was gone. He didn't sleep. Not much. At dawn, he hiked toward the place Dana had drawn in her map, the unmarked side canyon, the deviation, the shortcut she'd sketched but never recorded in her official notes, the red line in her tent. At the entrance, he found another cairn. This one was newer, fresh dust at its base, fingerprints in the grit, 6 stones, all smooth, all round, balanced in a pyramid, and at its foot, half buried in the sand, was something that made him freeze. A zipper pull, faded, frayed, still attached to a shred of canvas. The same forest green Dana's pack had been. He dropped to his knees, hands shaking. He dug gently around the fabric, found a rusted buckle, a torn strap, the edge of a small pouch. Inside, nothing but dust and silence. He sat back and stared into the side canyon. It was narrow, almost unnatural, as if 2 cliff faces had been pushed together by something ancient and angry. He whispered again, without meaning to, "Did you go in there?" And something, a single rock, maybe, clicked in the distance. He marked the location, took samples, shot footage, but he didn't enter the canyon. Not yet. That night, as he cooked silently, he noticed his GPS tracker had shifted 5 feet from where he left it. No footprints, no animal tracks, just moved. He checked the log. At 3:19 a.m., the signal had paused, then resumed. Same pattern as the shadow in the time-lapse. Same hour Dana's recorder would later capture her own whispers. Eli wrote a single line in his notebook that night. It circles at 3. On day 3, he returned to the side canyon. and stepped inside. He didn't take his pack, just a canteen flashlight and his voice recorder. The canyon narrowed with every step. The rock felt warmer, closer. 100 feet in, the light changed. Shadows fell in strange directions. Dust floated sideways. He passed a patch of lichen shaped like an open eye, a split in the stone that felt too symmetrical. And finally, scratched into the far wall, a symbol, a spiral crossed with a bar, just like Dana had drawn, just like that Reddit comment warned. Check Beamer, look for the spiral. Eli reached out and touched it. The stone was warm. Beneath the symbol, barely visible in scratched handwriting, "Don't sleep near the water." His heart hammered. He turned to leave and heard it behind him. Just once, a voice, soft as breath. "Stay." He didn't run. He couldn't. He walked, fast but steady, out of the side canyon and back to camp. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He just sat by the river, watching the shadows move. He posted one photo that night. Not the spiral, not the zipper, just the cairn. Captioned, Tanner, unmarked, 6 stones, found where a map ends. It had 4 likes, then 40, then 4,000. One comment stood out, from a user named at Watchline 1987. They've been building those since the 90s, before Dana. You found one, but they move. On the 4th morning, Eli Romero didn't speak. Not to his camera, not to the canyon, not even to himself. He just packed light, strapped his battered Nikon to his chest, and started climbing, deeper than Dana Blake had ever documented, into a bend that wasn't supposed to exist. The air changed with every step. Lighter at first, then heavier. The heat no longer came from above. It came from the stone itself, as if the walls were exhaling. And the trail beneath his boots didn't feel like trail at all. It felt grown. He followed the faintest depression in the canyon floor, just enough to suggest footsteps had passed his way, but too smooth, too old, too deliberate, as if the land remembered where she went, and had covered its tracks. At mile 12.6, Eli found it. At first, it looked like debris, a coil of frayed fabric, clumped with dust and thorns, wedged beneath the roots of a dead manzanita bush. But then he saw it, the zipper teeth, the buckle, the tag inside the flap, so faded he had to breathe on it to read. D. Blake. His breath caught. He stared for a long time. Then, with gloved hands, he slowly peeled the pack free. It had been out here for years, weathered, warped by heat and flash floods. But it was hers. He opened the main pocket. Inside, desiccated fabric, bits of food wrapper, a rusted multi-tool, a cracked plastic comb. But beneath the inner flap, something wrapped in wax cloth. He unwrapped it slowly like it might shatter. Inside, a blank leather-bound notebook, a New Mexico driver's license, Dana Blake, and a small, old-school voice recorder, battery compartment intact. No corrosion. It was her. No doubt. No debate. She had come this far, and for some reason, she left it behind. Eli sat cross-legged in the sand, packed beside him, canyon watching. He loaded 2 fresh batteries into the recorder and waited. A green light blinked once. Then again, one file, time-stamped, May 19th, 2015, 2:13 a.m. He hit play. The recording was faint, crackling, wind. Then Dana's voice, worn and low. "Okay, I think it's Saturday. Still near the bend. Move camp uphill." River was too loud. I couldn't hear. She stopped. A pause. Breath. A soft sound in the background, like leaves brushing nylon. Then, I thought I saw someone. Her voice cracked. Not a hiker. I thought it was. At first, The pack looked right, but it moved wrong, like it didn't know how to wear it. A scraping noise. Nails on stone. Her voice again, closer to the mic. I tried to say hello. It didn't stop. Silence. Then a whisper. Not hers. Too low. Too wet. Not language. Just rhythm. Then Dana again. It keeps circling back. Another pause. Going to the ridge in the morning. If I don't make it. Click. End of file. Eli sat motionless for a long time. It wasn't just a terror in her voice. It was a logic. She was trying to make sense of something unnatural. She was scared, but deliberate, precise, like someone trained to survive. And still, she was gone. He didn't post a file. Not yet. He copied it twice. Once to his sat link, once to a physical SD card, then wrapped it in plastic and buried it beneath a cairn near his camp. That night, he dreamed of the symbol, the spiral with a line through it. He dreamed of Dana drawing it in her journal, over and over. Only each time she drew it, it was a little more off-center, a little more wrong, a little more alive. In the morning, the spiral was carved into the rock beside his tent. He hadn't carved it. He hadn't seen it the night before. But it was there, fresh, clean, no wind erosion, no water lines, as if someone or something had placed it there while he slept. Eli packed up and moved. Quickly. He didn't run. But he didn't look back, either. He hiked west, into terrain almost no one mapped. The Palisades were sharp here, red stone blades, rising like jagged teeth in a canyon floor. There were no cairns here, no trails, only gravity. And still, he kept going. He wasn't looking for Dana anymore. He was looking for whatever she saw. By the sixth night, he'd lost signal entirely. His sat link pinged out. No drone reception. Even his GoPro footage came back glitchy, with frames that jumped or froze. One video, a wide shot of canyon floor, kept stuttering on frame 213. When he paused there, a figure stood just beyond the cliff's shadow. Tall, still, not facing the camera, just waiting. That night, he didn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the voice. Dana's? No. Too deep. Too close. Not a voice. Maybe just presence. He tried the recorder again. Replayed Dana's message. Listened this time with headphones. At the end, just before the file cut off, there was something else. A second voice. Faint. Male. Not whispering. Speaking. A single word. Stay. Eli froze. He rewound. Played again. There it was. Half a second before the tape ends. A man's voice. Calm. Commanding. Not afraid. Just there. He uploaded the enhanced file to his drive. Caption. She wasn't alone. And below that, added a question. Who spoke last? It got shared 600 times in the first hour. By morning, 40,000 views. One message stood out, from a user named at Hollow Echo. I heard that voice in 2009. North Rim, same word, same tone. I didn't stay. Another from at A. Walker 1982. This isn't the first. Look into Escalante Drain. Look into Elena Voss. Eli clicked the name. His browser stalled. Then loaded. Elena Voss, botanist, disappeared in 2009. Grand Canyon. Last seen, studying moss patterns near the Colorado River. Her tent was found, undisturbed. Journal open. No signs of distress. No body. No explanation. She had camped near the same drainage Dana had mapped. And her last written note? A single line. There's something listening here. Eli backed away from his screen. This wasn't one disappearance anymore. It was three. And it was a pattern. He posted one final image that day. Not of Dana, not of the gear, just a spiral, carved into stone beside his camp. He wrote, Dana wasn't the first. I don't think she was the last. And below that, in small letters, I'm going deeper. Some places don't want to be found. They don't hide in the usual way, not with walls or thickets or warning signs. They hide in feeling, in angles that never catch sunlight, in air that grows too still, in silence that feels shaped. That's what the cave was, a silence that had waited. Eli Romero found it on the 7th day of his descent, farther west than any marked route, beyond where Dana Blake's final hand-drawn map had ended. It wasn't on the satellite images, not on the old topo maps, but it was real, and it felt like it had been waiting for him. The entrance wasn't dramatic. It crouched low under an overhang, half covered in thorn brush. Dirt slumped against its ribs like a mouth that had stopped speaking decades ago. You'd miss it if you weren't looking directly at it. But Eli was. He'd been following something. Not Dana's trail anymore. Something beneath that trail. A shape in the terrain. A curve in the cliff line. A shadow that didn't change with the sun. And now there it was, an opening barely wide enough to crawl through. He stood there for a long time. Then he whispered, like he was asking permission. You brought her here, didn't you? The wind didn't move. The brush didn't bend. But something pulled. And Eli dropped to his knees, unclipped his pack, and dragged himself inside. The air changed immediately. Cooler. Wet. Still. The temperature dropped nearly 20 degrees. Dust clung to everything, like a skin the canyon had shed and refused to sweep away. He crawled 15 feet on his belly. Then the passage opened into a shallow chamber, 10 feet high, 12 feet wide, a natural room in the rock. And inside, time had stopped. There was gear, old, scattered, a rusted water bottle, the frame of a tent, a broken hiking pole, torn canvas buried in dust, and on the far wall, scratched into stone, symbols, not words, not drawings, just shapes, circles, spirals, arrows, lines intersecting, some repeated, some chaotic, and in the center, carved deep in the rest, was a spiral. The same one Dana had drawn. The same one on the stone beside his tent. Only this one was fresh. No dust in the grooves. No erosion, as if someone had carved it the day before. Eli's headlamp flickered. Just once. Then steadied. He stepped forward slowly, every breath loud in the stillness. Then he saw it. Tucked beneath a pile of loose shale in the corner. A box. Metal, dense-scarred, about the size of a toolbox, coated in a film of canyon dust. The clasp had fused shut, but on the lid, scratched deeply, were 3 letters, DB, and beneath that, a single word, keep. Eli didn't open it right away. His hands hovered. He sat beside it for nearly an hour, just breathing, listening. There was no sound. Not even wind, only a pressure, a weight in the air, as if the space remembered being full. And now it was full again. He didn't open the box in the cave. It felt wrong, like opening it here would release something meant to be kept buried. Instead, he wrapped it in his tarp, taped it shut, and slipped it into his pack. He hiked out without sleeping. 42 miles in 3 days, blistered and delirious. When he reached the rim, he didn't stop walking. Not until he was behind the locked door of a cheap motel room off Route 66 in Flagstaff. Only then did he open it. The clasp cracked with a metal scream. The lid creaked back. Inside, 3 items. A bundle of photographs, wrapped in plastic. A broken compass, its needle spinning slowly. A voice recorder, older than the one he'd already found. Dusted, blood-stained, melted slightly at the corner. Eli sat down hard. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stared at the contents like they were relics from someone else's nightmare. He unwrapped the photos first. They weren't all Dana's. Some were. Sharp landscapes, canyon walls, a raven in flight. Then they changed. Close-ups of bark, soil, a boot print half filled with sand. One was torn in half. A figure at the edge of a cliff, mid-stride, walking away. No face, just a body, just motion. Then the final photo. A hand reaching toward the camera, fingers outstretched, mid-motion, not posed, not still, not staged, just caught. Eli sat on the floor for a long time. Then he powered up the recorder. Old model, one blinking red light, one file. He hit play. The tape hissed. Then Dana's voice. It's Saturday. I think. I'm still near the bend. Moved camp uphill. The same beginning. Then new. It came again last night. Closer. It crouched near the tent. I could hear it breathing. Not human. Not animal. Just wrong. She stopped, then whispered. It wore a pack. But not right. Like it was mimicking. Like it was trying. Then softly, I said hello. It didn't answer. But it made a sound. Like wet laughter. The sound of wind. Of footsteps. Of nylon shifting. Then Dana's voice again. If I don't make it, if this ends, I want someone to know it isn't alone. It never was. Click. End. Eli dropped the recorder. His hands shook. Not from fear. From understanding. It wasn't about Dana anymore. It wasn't even about the canyon. It was about the thing that lived inside both. He posted one final image that night. Just a torn photo. The hand reaching for the lens. Caption. Someone took the last photo. And it wasn't her. It went viral in 3 hours. Forums lit up. Some said hoax. Some said government cover-up. Others whispered. One private message arrived at 3:17 a.m. No name. Just a number. And a line. I was there when they sealed it. You're not crazy. Call me. The call came at 3:17 a.m. No caller ID. No location. Just a simple message sitting in Eli's inbox. I was there when they sealed it. You're not crazy. Call me. He didn't answer right away. He stared at the message for an hour, the glow of his laptop painting shadows across the motel ceiling. The box still sat unopened beside the bed. The torn photograph lay face up on the nightstand, fingers reaching forever. Finally, just before dawn, he dialed a number. 1 ring. 2. Then a voice, low, worn, rasped by years of silence. You Eli? He said yes. A pause. Then, don't say your full name. Don't mention the cave. Eli didn't. He listened. The man called himself Mike. That's all. Just Mike. Said he'd worked backcountry patrol in the Grand Canyon from 1989 to 2007. Said he retired early. Said he moved off-grid on purpose. I'm only talking to you because someone still inside told me what you found. Eli stayed quiet. I know the place, Mike continued. I found it in 94. Same bend. Same symbols. Eli asked the obvious question. Why didn't you report it? Mike laughed. Not kindly. I did. That's when they buried it. He told Eli a story. Not one that made sense, but one that felt real. Back in 94, a search was launched for a solo hiker. Karen Day, 34, environmental scientist. She'd been studying erosion markers along Escalante drainage. Just stopped radioing. Rangers found her tent. Perfectly pitched. Packed still inside. Food sealed. No signs of violence. Just no Karen. Mike was assigned to sweep the side canyons. And that's when he found the cave. It was already full, Mike said. Not just old gear, not just bones. Names, carved all over the stone. He didn't recognize them then. But one stuck out. RT 1973. No missing hiker by that name had been logged that year. At least not officially. Mike took photos, filed a report. Next day, my supervisor told me the cave didn't exist, that it was a natural formation, inaccessible, too unstable. Eli asked what he meant by sealed. Mike hesitated, then said, 3 weeks later, I returned on my own. Cave was blocked. Entrance collapsed. Manzanita uprooted, like someone had buried it. Eli sat in silence, notebook open, pen unmoving. They knew, Mike said. Even back then, they didn't want it found. Why? Mike exhaled hard. Because that cave isn't the only one. That's when Eli's pen dropped. There wasn't just one cave. They're spread through the drainage. Mike said, small, hidden, some natural, some felt made. Eli whispered, you think they're connected? Mike's voice lowered. I think someone or something used them, marked them, trapped people in them, and the canyon helped. He told Eli to look up the phrase Escalante Watch Zone, not on Google, in the old maintenance logs. The phrase popped up 17 times between 1971 and 2005, always in handwriting, never typed. Eli asked what it meant. Mike said, that's the problem. No one defined it. They just circled it, avoided it, but the pattern's there. Dana wasn't the only case. Eli already knew that. He'd found Elena Voss, 2009. Now Karen Day, 1994. Mike gave him another name. Stephanie Reed, 2012. Photographer, same age as Dana. Solo hike on the Hermit Trail. Never came back. Boots found beside a dry wash. Camera missing. Camp intact. Journal entry ended mid-sentence. I saw the same pack again. 3 women. Same profile. Same canyon. Same vanishing. And the same carved spiral. Eli flipped back to his own journal. Drew the spiral again. This time his hand shook. Mike added one more thing before hanging up. Don't use a flashlight. It finds you easier in the light. Then the line went dead. Eli sat in silence for a long time, then played Dana's last recording again. This time, just the final seconds. It isn't alone. It never was. He closed his laptop, looked at the carved spiral photo, and whispered, you knew. That morning, he drove back to park. No crew, no cameras, no drone. He packed lightly. 2 canteens, a headlamp, the box, and one photograph, Dana's favorite. A beam of light breaking through stone. She'd titled it, Stillness. He left the motel key on the dresser. Didn't check out. Didn't leave a note. But before he stepped onto Tanner Trail again, he logged his name in the Ranger book. E. Romero 2 nights, lower camp back Friday. Beneath it, he wrote, if not, raise hell. For 10 years, Rachel Blake only visited the canyon from the rim. She stood at the edge each May, with the dust curled upward like breath, and stared down into a silence that never gave anything back. She'd left candles, notes, Dana's photo printed in plastic sleeves. But she never stepped inside, not since her sister vanished. Not until now. The message from Eli came short. No punctuation, no pleasantries, just a photo of the carved initials, DB, May 17, 13, inside the cave, and beneath it, she made it in. Rachel didn't respond right away. She just stared at the image for hours. Then she booked a flight. Queer job. Told no one. When she arrived in Flagstaff, She was already wearing her boots. In one hand, a rolled-up print of Dana's favorite photo. In the other, her sister's green notebook, the one she hadn't opened in years. Eli met her at the trailhead. He didn't say much. Neither did she. They just nodded and walked. It took them 2 days to descend. Same path, same heat, same silence. At the river crossing, Rachel paused, kneeled in the shallows, pressed her palm to the water, then wiped it on her jeans. Like a mark, like a pact, they reached the mouth of the hidden canyon just after sunset. The same entrance Eli had crawled through before, now barely visible beneath brush and dust. Rachel didn't hesitate. She ducked low and pulled herself inside. Eli followed. Inside the cave, the air was colder, as if time had pooled there, waiting. Their headlamps swept across the carvings. Rachel knelt immediately beside the far wall. There it was. DB, May 17, 13. Her fingers hovered over it, not shaking, just reverent. She was here, Rachel whispered. She made it. And then Eli saw something new. Just beneath Dana's initials, another set. Fresh. No dust. Nowhere. The stone still chipped. BL, May 17th, 13. Then below that, SH. Then NS. Then JE. 5 people. Same date. Same end. Rachel's eyes widened. She wasn't alone. She stood up, turned slowly, scanning the walls. The cave was full of names now, initials, dates, sometimes just symbols, some gouged in panic, some carved carefully. One symbol repeated more than any other, the spiral with the line through it. Eli whispered. They marked themselves, like a ledger, like proof they were here. Rachel stepped toward a corner where the wall curved inward. She pulled Dana's photo from its plastic. A canyon shot, golden hour, light bleeding across stone like an open wound. Dana had called it stillness. Rachel tucked it into a crevice above the box Eli had found. Not hidden, just placed, like a promise. Then she reached into her pack, pulled out a piece of chalk, bent low, and beneath Dana's initials she wrote her own. RB, June 12, 24. Eli watched without speaking. He understood. This wasn't grief. This was communion. They stayed in the cave a few minutes longer. Long enough to breathe. Long enough to say goodbye. When they turned to leave, Rachel glanced back one last time. In the lowest corner of the wall, just above the ground, something new had been scratched into the stone. Still damp. Still shining. Yar. Eli stepped closer. I didn't carve that. Rachel didn't answer. She didn't need to. The canyon had. Back at the cabin near the rim, Rachel asked to hear Dana's final recording. They sat together in silence as Eli played it. Dana's voice cracked through the static. It keeps circling back. The nylon tent, the footsteps, the panic, then the final words. If I don't make it. Click. Eli stopped the file. Rachel tilted her head. Play that again, she said, just before it ends. He rewound, listened carefully, and then he heard it, barely audible, beneath the static. A second voice, not Dana's. Male, soft, too close to the mic. One word, stay. Eli froze. So did Rachel. That wasn't her, she said. He cleaned the file, ran it through filters, removed the hiss. It was real, not wind, not echo, not animal. Speech, command, presence. They looked at each other. Neither spoke, but they understood. Dana hadn't been alone, not when she vanished, not even when she died. If she died, something had been there. With her, Rachel didn't weep that night, but in the morning, she stood at the trailhead and whispered her sister's name, then stepped away from the canyon. and didn't look back. Eli lingered. He raised his camera one final time, pointed back toward the gap in the stone, framed the shadows, and saw it, just for a moment. Something moved. Not fast, not aggressive, just there, watching. He didn't press record. He lowered the camera and whispered, "You remember us now." The last thing Eli Romero ever posted was a photo. No caption, no hashtags, no watermark, just a shot of cairn. 6 stones stacked beside a crooked juniper, the spiral symbol carved into the rock at its base. It went unnoticed at first. No one shared it. No one commented. But Rachel Blake saw it, and she knew exactly where it had been taken. He hadn't told her he was going back. He hadn't told anyone. The photo was posted at 3:12 a.m., for days after they'd emerged from the canyon together. She called him. No answer. She texted. Nothing. His voicemail hadn't changed. Just that calm, clipped voice. "This is Eli. Leave it short." He didn't respond. And she knew the canyon had taken him too. 3 days later, a ranger found his car. Same parking lot. Same corner of the overlook. Key still in the ignition. Windows cracked. Heat thick inside. Backpack in the passenger seat. Empty. But there was one thing in the back seat that hadn't been there before. A photograph. Printed. Torn at the edge. Same one Dana had once carried. The hand reaching toward the lens. Only this time, someone had drawn a second hand reaching back. Pencil. Faint. And beneath it, in block letters, "She's not alone." The Rangers logged the car as abandoned. No evidence of foul play. No search ordered. Rachel requested the case file. It was thin. 5 pages. 1 photo. 1 note. Stamped. No further investigation recommended. Voluntary disappearance presumed. But Rachel knew better. She always had. She returned to the canyon on her own. Same trail. Same date. 1 year after Eli vanished. She walked slowly, deliberately, her boots pressing into familiar dust, her breath steady with every switchback. At the side canyon's mouth, she stopped. The entrance looked different now. Narrower, darker, but she still crawled inside. The cave hadn't changed. Not really. Still cold. Still still. The names were there. Dana's. The others. All untouched. But in the farthest corner, just above the stone where she had written Arby, June 12th, 24, a new carving had appeared. It was faint, fresh, chipped clean. Yar, June 16th, 24. Eli's initials. Dated 4 days after their last conversation. 4 days after his final photo. She fell to her knees, ran her fingers over grooves. It was his handwriting. She knew it. She whispered, "You came back." She didn't ask why. She didn't need to. Some questions answer themselves. She stayed for hours. No headlamp, no camera, just silence. She whispered stories into the dark, not out of fear, out of memory. And the cave, for once, didn't feel empty. As she turned to leave, something caught her eye, a new mark, not initials, not a spiral, just one word, carved softly into the stone floor. Stay. She stared at it, then at the spiral, then at the cave. She whispered, "Not today," and crawled back into the light. 2 months later, hikers on Tanner Trail spotted something unusual at a high overlook. A single boot, laced tight, untouched. Beside it, a folded piece of paper weighed down by a smooth black stone. The note read, "Some places don't take people. They wait for someone willing to listen." On the back, a sketch of the cave, a spiral, and 5 initials. The last one circled. Yar. Rachel never returned to the canyon again. She moved to the Oregon coast, opened a small photo gallery. Every wall was filled with Dana's pictures. The canyon shots, the river light, the wind-faded cliffs. But one photo sat alone, by the window, where light could reach it. The one Eli had taken to the cairn. No caption, no frame, just 6 stones. And the spiral. Every year on May 17th, someone leaves a bundle of fresh photos at the trailhead. No name, no camera, just images, the cave from new angles. The initials, freshly cleaned. Dana's picture, still tucked in stone. A new spiral appearing beside the last. And now a new name appears. Every year, more initials, more dates, one more voice answering the canyon. Because the canyon doesn't forget, it doesn't forgive, and it doesn't always kill. Sometimes it just waits, until you're quiet enough to hear what it's saying. Welcome to Uncommon Stories. If this one stayed with you, tell me where in the world you're watching and what time the truth finally found you. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and if the spiral ever appears in front of you, don't follow it.